Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Bold and Beautiful today.
Bill's retaliation after Luna injures Will, promises to find the fugitive? Luna Nozawa is about to disappoint Bill Spencer in a significant way. Bill once believed that Luna had the capacity to change her life, but that optimism is quickly dwindling. Fans of B&B are aware that Bill had previously connected with Luna, or at least he believed he had. Bill put Luna under house arrest because he saw another side of her and was concerned about her safety while incarcerated. Bill went one step further and obtained Luna's pardon, as if completing the rest of her sentence in a luxurious mansion wasn't already simple enough. It was an error that Bill will soon come to regret. Steffy Forrester is currently the target of some very serious threats from Luna, therefore Will Spencer is hoping that she will confess while wearing a wire. Sadly, spoilers for the Bold and the Beautiful reveal that Luna will flee after this trap fails miserably. Things will get crazy when Luna realizes that Will is fooling her and runs away in a panic. Will might end up in greater danger than he anticipated because Luna purchased a rifle and has been practicing at the shooting range. On her way out the door, Luna might shoot Will or at least knock him unconscious. In either event, if Will's plan fails, Bill might swear retaliation. If Will is indeed shot and taken to the hospital by Luna, we might witness Bill's vindictive Papa Bear side. Bill may feel obligated to find Luna and ensure that she never harms anyone again because he made arrangements for her release. Bill may pledge to stop Luna by all means necessary because, of course, he will also seek retribution for Will's sake. Rich Bill could be able to organize a large-scale search more effectively than the police because he has limitless resources. Getting rid of the adorable Bill who allowed Luna to cover his eyes will be pleasant. Since Luna has only let him down, Dollar Bill ought to return to the field and promise retribution. Bill Spencer had always considered himself a man of strength, control, and dominance, both in the business world and in his personal life. Over the years, he had forged empires, demolished rivals, and held his own against the manipulative elite of Los Angeles, but nothing had prepared him for the quiet storm that was Luna Nozawa. Luna, with her disarming charm, damaged innocence, and relentless ambition, had once seemed like a lost soul worth saving, a diamond in the rough who just needed the right guidance, the right opportunity, the right ally. Bill had seen himself in her once, a scrapper, someone willing to take risks, push limits, and do whatever it took to survive. That's what made it so personal when everything started to crumble. It was more than betrayal. It was a slap in the face to every instinct he'd ever trusted, every principle he'd sacrificed to give her a second chance. Luna hadn't just burned bridges, she'd torched the entire path back to redemption, and now, with Will's life hanging in the balance, Bill's fury would know no limits. It had started with a connection, a spark. Bill had always been a good judge of character, or so he believed. Luna was different from the other women who had come in and out of his life. She wasn't seducing him for power, or so he thought. She wasn't playing him for money. She had a spark of vulnerability that drew him in, and for a while, Bill let himself believe he could save her. When Luna was sentenced, and the threat of prison loomed, Bill used every connection he had, pulled every string, and sacrificed significant public goodwill to get her out. House arrest in a luxury estate was generous enough, but when Luna showed signs of turning her life around, or at least feigned it convincingly, Bill made the ultimate move. He used his influence to secure her a full pardon. Friends in high places owed him favors, and he cashed them in, not realizing that he was dealing with someone who had no intention of being saved. He thought he was giving her freedom. He had no idea he was unleashing a ticking time bomb. Will Spencer had always admired his father's intensity, his fearlessness, his ability to see 10 steps ahead. That's why it rattled Will so much to see his dad fall for Luna's act. Will was a man of logic, strategy, and caution, more reserved than his father, but no less protective of the Spencer name. When it became clear that Luna had begun harboring resentment toward Steffy Forrester, spurred on by jealousy, unresolved family trauma, or perhaps a mental spiral that had been simmering for years, Will took notice. Luna's increasing volatility was no longer a theoretical risk. It was real. It was dangerous. And when she started making veiled threats, Will devised a plan that would either confirm her guilt or force her hand. He would wear a wire. He would be the bait. He would get her to confess to her intentions towards Steffi, hoping that the evidence would be enough to put her behind bars for good, something his father hadn't had the foresight to do. But what Will didn't anticipate, what none of them did, was how deeply Luna had fallen into her own spiral. She had recently purchased a gun under a false identity, claiming she needed it for protection, but her frequent visits to a secluded shooting range painted a more sinister picture. Luna wasn't just preparing to defend herself. She was rehearsing something deadly. When the day of the wiretapped conversation came, things spiraled out of control with breathtaking speed. Luna, ever perceptive when it came to betrayal, saw through Will's careful prodding. She spotted the wire. Her face changed in an instant, from concern to cold, from vulnerable to venomous. What followed was chaos. Screaming. A scuffle. A gun drawn. And then, silence. Will was found unconscious, blood pooling around his head from a brutal blow, not from a bullet, but from the butt of Luna's gun. It was a miracle he was still alive. Luna had fled the scene, and within hours, every camera in the vicinity was either wiped or pointed elsewhere, as if someone, perhaps Luna herself, had staged the escape well in advance. The authorities scrambled, but Luna had vanished like a shadow at dawn. And Bill? Bill snapped. The man who had once extended compassion, who had risked his reputation to save Luna, who had believed in the goodness beneath her chaos, was gone. In his place stood Bill Spencer, the ruthless titan of industry who took no prisoners and demanded blood for blood. His son had been attacked. His trust had been shattered. And the woman he had once protected was now a fugitive with nothing left to lose. The media spun their stories: heiress turned fugitive, Luna Nozawa, the fallen angel of Beverly Hills, Spencer's scandal rocks elite, but Bill didn't care about the headlines. He cared about one thing: vengeance. He personally assembled a private task force, handpicking former operatives from his corporate security division, intelligence experts, and black ops contacts who owed him favors from their military days. LAPD could barely keep up with paperwork. Bill's team was already scouring Luna's last known contacts, intercepting burner phone traffic, analyzing security footage from private airports, and tracing financial activity linked to Luna's family overseas. He spared no expense. He froze Luna's accounts. He monitored her mother, Poppy, and began pressuring her with subpoenas and veiled threats. No stone was left unturned. Luna would be found. And when she was, Bill vowed she wouldn't see the inside of a courtroom again. His rage wasn't cold. It was volcanic. This wasn't just business. This wasn't just personal. It was war. And in his mind, Luna had declared it the moment she hurt Will. What stung most was that Bill had seen something in her that reminded him of his own beginnings: scrappy, misunderstood, ambitious. That connection made her betrayal cut deeper. He had tried to be her protector. She had chosen to become a predator. Meanwhile, Luna wasn't hiding quietly. As reports emerged of her sightings in Mexico, then Spain, then South Korea, whispers grew louder that she was planning something bigger. Some said she wanted revenge against Steffi for some long-held family grudge. Others said she was simply unraveling. The most alarming rumor of all was that Luna was building a new identity under the radar, connecting with black market tech brokers and stolen ID syndicates. She wasn't just running. She was evolving, transforming into someone untraceable, unpredictable, and, most dangerously, untouchable. But Bill didn't care how far she ran. He had eyes everywhere. Will's recovery was slow but steady. He woke in a hospital suite surrounded by security and family, his face bruised, his memory cloudy. The moment he whispered Luna through cracked lips, Bill's mission was cemented in fire. There was no redemption arc, no second chance, no nuanced understanding of her trauma. Bill had tried that. He had believed in that. And it had nearly cost him his son. Now, all that mattered was ensuring she never came close to any Spencer again. Steffi, too, grew nervous. Though Luna's original grudge was with her, she never imagined the woman would go this far. Luna had always seemed unstable, yes, but not lethal. Now, with reports of her possibly arming herself, tapping into dark web resources, and building a new network of allies, Steffi found herself living in fear. Security detail tightened around her kids, her home turned into a fortress. The Forrester family, long used to high drama, realized this was something different. This was war declared from the shadows, and Bill Spencer was at the helm of the retaliation. But with every passing week, the line between justice and obsession blurred. Brooke Logan, who had once admired Bill's loyalty, warned him he was crossing a line. Ridge tried to broker peace, not with Luna, but within Bill himself. "Don't become what you're chasing," Ridge said quietly, "or she wins." But Bill was too far gone. Luna had scarred his legacy. She had wounded his son. She had awakened the part of him that only surfaced when empires were threatened. There was no going back. The climax of Bill's hunt would take him to Tokyo, following a lead that Luna had sought refuge with an old family acquaintance in the underworld there. What followed was a harrowing rooftop confrontation, as dramatic as any finale The Bold and the Beautiful had ever aired, complete with rain pouring down, police helicopters circling, Luna cornered, trembling, still gripping the same weapon she had once used to silence Will. Bill, face to face with her at last, didn't raise a hand. He didn't need to. His words were sharper than any bullet. "You could have had everything," he whispered, voice low and thunderous. "You chose war. And I don't lose wars." Whether Luna would leap from that rooftop, surrender, or pull the trigger one last time was left uncertain. But what remained clear was this: the days of Bill Spencer playing the savior were over. The world had reminded him of who he was, a lion, not a shepherd. And for those who threatened his family, his legacy, or his name, mercy would never be on the table again. Luna reveals on camera her intention to hurt Steffi with Will. Back at the Forrester home, Taylor Hayes and Ridge Forrester continued to celebrate their engagement. Taylor pondered how Eric Forrester would respond to their big announcement. Before informing Ridge that it was finally their time to celebrate, Taylor eagerly anticipated updating Steffi and Thomas Forrester. Brooke Logan expressed her happiness at having Hope Logan back at Forrester Creations. Brooke promised to speak with Ridge about bringing her line back, as Hope still yearned for it. Though she believed her mother deserved more, Hope made hints that Brooke also wanted a romantic resurrection with Ridge. Brooke stated that Nick Marone told her the same thing when he had visited. Nick's pursuit of Brooke encouraged Hope, who felt that he would be just what her mother needed at this moment. Brooke insisted that Ridge still had her heart, nevertheless. Nick showed up in the doorway after Brooke portrayed Ridge as her fate and promised to return. Hope hugged Nick and said she hoped to see him again while he was in town. Nick intimated that he had something he needed to tell Brooke face to face once they were alone, and Brooke finally concluded it must be something negative. After Nick came clean about what he saw at Il Giardino, Brooke was taken aback by Taylor's marriage proposal and Ridge's acceptance. Luna Nozawa continued to try to impress Will Spencer at her apartment while Nick told Brooke about Ridge and Taylor's engagement. Electra Forrester found it difficult to see all the kisses and listen to Will discuss their breakup after he made out with Luna. Electra was promptly reminded by Steffi that it was merely a performance. Even though watching all of this on the video feed was difficult, Electra knew Will was taking action to keep Steffi and her family safe, including herself. Bradley Baker, the deputy chief, also assured Electra that Will would have backup close in case of an emergency. Will then pushed the brakes with Luna on Thursday's B&B show, saying he didn't want her to believe he was merely exploiting her for a sexual encounter. Will feigned sympathy for Luna's previous hardships and suggested they might be more. Following her tirade about Papi Nozawa, Luna exulted over having at last located her father. Luna went on a rampage about that bitch Steffi ruining her hopes of dating John Finnegan as a result. Luna made it plain that she would not tolerate it and disclosed her strategy to ensure that Steffi would never again be an issue. Finn yelled at the Cliff House that the remark was intended to cause harm, but it appears Baker will demand they require more before long. As the sun set over Los Angeles, casting golden streaks across the Pacific coastline, the world of the Forresters, Spencers, and Logans buzzed with secrets, longing, and looming danger, none more ominous than the shadow Luna Nozawa now cast over Steffi Forrester Finnegan's life. At the Forrester mansion, Taylor Hayes and Ridge Forrester shared intimate champagne toasts under soft candlelight, hearts buoyed by their rekindled love and a newly forged engagement that seemed to promise a peaceful future, a second chance at a destiny years in the making. Taylor, radiant and emotionally fulfilled, spoke of the joy she felt in being able to share the engagement news with Steffi and Thomas, blissfully unaware that a storm was brewing not just outside their walls, but within the very fabric of their tangled lives. Ridge, though ever stoic, showed flickers of vulnerability, perhaps a trace of guilt for the history he shared with Brooke Logan, but more likely a flicker of concern that happiness in their family never lasted without cost. Meanwhile, at Forrester Creations, Brooke and Hope Logan clung to their own dreams. Brooke, ever the romantic optimist, waxed poetic about her unwavering love for Ridge and confided in Hope that Nick Marone's recent visit had stirred old feelings. Nick's reappearance reminded her of simpler, freer times, but her heart still beat for Ridge, even if her hope for reconciliation now seemed like a desperate whisper in a storm of shifting loyalties. Hope, meanwhile, ever the pragmatist and sensitive daughter, pushed for her fashion line's return and subtly questioned whether her mother's obsession with Ridge was truly healthy. It was all standard melodrama, the kind this family knew all too well, until Nick revealed a truth that pulled the rug out from under Brooke entirely. Nick's quiet confession that he had seen Taylor propose to Ridge at Il Giardino and that Ridge had accepted the proposal left Brooke stricken, her carefully constructed fantasy of reunion crumbling before her very eyes. But even as this heartbreak unraveled in Beverly Hills, the real danger simmered miles away in a modest West Hollywood apartment where Luna Nozawa, spiraling from rejection and obsessed with vengeance, shared a dark and dangerous plan with Will Spencer, captured in real time on hidden surveillance cameras feeding back to Steffi, Finn, Electra Forrester, and Deputy Chief Bradley Baker. Luna, caught in the grip of emotional volatility and driven by deep-rooted jealousy, lashed out verbally as Will played his role, seducing her with charm while extracting the truth. Luna, lost in a haze of lust, betrayal, and misplaced ambition, ranted about the pain she endured growing up without a stable family, the lies her mother Poppy told, and the heartbreak of learning that Finn, John Finnegan, Steffi's husband, was her half-brother. What should have been a moment of family expansion had instead morphed into bitterness, as Steffi's protective instincts blocked Luna from becoming closer to Finn, triggering something dark within her. Luna's resentment boiled over as she spat venom about Steffi, calling her a manipulative witch who always had everything, the perfect husband, the perfect family, the perfect life. She accused Steffi of destroying any chance she had to build a sibling bond with Finn, insisting Steffi turned him against her. Her voice cracked with emotion as she leaned into Will, believing him to be a kindred spirit, someone who saw her pain and would stand beside her. But Will, watching every word and every move with precision, feigned empathy, all the while catching it all on hidden cameras. Electra, steeling herself behind the surveillance feed, fought back tears and fury, not from jealousy of Luna's closeness with Will, but from the fear of what Luna's words meant. "She's not just mad," Electra whispered to Finn. "She's dangerous." Indeed, as Luna wrapped herself in a delusion of justice, she laid out a chilling confession: "Steffi won't stand in my way anymore. I'll make sure of it." The words cut through the room like a knife. Finn stood stunned, rage and fear wrestling across his face as the woman he once considered extended family declared a chilling intent to harm his wife. Deputy Chief Baker, watching from behind, immediately sprang into protocol mode, declaring the statement close to a criminal confession, but noting they would need more to legally intervene. Yet the emotional weight of Luna's intent settled heavily on Finn's chest. This wasn't idle gossip or emotional venting. This was the raw, unfiltered mind of a woman unhinged. Back at the Cliff House, Steffi gripped the edge of the table, her knuckles white, eyes wide with a mix of horror and righteous fury. "She wants me gone," she whispered, more to herself than anyone. She said it on tape. And she meant it. Will, playing his part masterfully, gently coaxed Luna further, asking her what she planned to do. Luna, breathless and erratic, hinted at steps she had already taken, snooping through Steffi's life, finding vulnerabilities, and maybe, just maybe, using Steffi's children to rattle her composure. At that, Electra nearly lunged toward the monitor. That's enough, she shouted, but Finn grabbed her arm. We need her to keep talking. The room buzzed with urgency. Each word Luna spoke painted her as more than a jealous rival, she was a threat. Will, sweating slightly now, kept the conversation light but probing. You wouldn't actually hurt her, right? He asked gently. Luna's laugh in response was bone-chilling. Hurt? No. I'd just remove the problem. The room fell silent. Electra turned to Baker. That's it. That's intent. That's a threat. But Baker shook his head, frustration lining his features. Not enough to arrest her. Not yet. But we're close. Meanwhile, Luna, unaware of the eyes on her, began pacing, outlining fantasies of Steffi suffering public humiliation, losing everything, her reputation, her company, her family. She spoke with a zeal that terrified even Will, who had to refocus to stay in character. At one point, Luna brandished a small silver object, a USB drive, and told Will it contained confidential information she had stolen from Forrester Creations. Evidence that'll destroy Steffi and everyone who protects her, she whispered. All I have to do is click send. Will, alarmed, tried to calm her. You don't want to go down that path. But Luna was no longer rational. This path is justice, she hissed. She took my family. I'll take hers. Meanwhile, Finn called a silent alert to Baker, who nodded and began prepping a tactical response team. If she hits that send button, Finn said through gritted teeth, this goes nuclear. Taylor and Ridge, notified by Steffi, arrived shortly after, faces drawn with concern and disbelief. Luna? Taylor gasped when she saw the footage. That's not the girl I knew. Ridge said nothing, but the fury in his jawline spoke volumes. As the surveillance played on, Luna slipped further into mania, her voice rising, her eyes wild with intensity. Steffi thinks she's untouchable, she cried. But no one is safe from karma. And I'm karma. It was at that moment that Will, using the prearranged signal, reached for his jacket, coded language for law enforcement to move in. Within seconds, officers stormed the apartment. Luna screamed, knocking over a lamp, and tried to destroy the USB, but Will grabbed it first. You're done, Luna, he said, voice hard, abandoning the facade. This ends now. Luna, breath heaving, stared at the officers as they handcuffed her. I'm not the villain, she cried. She is. Steffi ruined everything. But no one listened. At the Cliff House, Steffi slumped into Finn's arms, tears of relief and exhaustion falling freely. She could have ruined everything, she sobbed. Our life. Our family. Finn kissed her head, whispering reassurances. The danger had passed, for now. But as Taylor watched Luna being hauled away, her heart broke. What happened to her? She asked aloud. What did we miss? Ridge stood beside her, shaking his head. We didn't miss it. We just didn't want to see it. Back at Forrester Creations, Brooke and Hope received the news in hushed shock. So much darkness, Brooke whispered. All because of one broken girl and a lifetime of lies. And as the sun finally dipped below the horizon, casting the city in twilight, it became clear, no secret stayed buried forever, no love was ever safe from the past, and in the world of the Forresters, even family could become your greatest threat.